Hey, everybody, and welcome to another installment, another edition of Work Your Career Wednesday. I am so excited about today's show. We have a very, very special guest. But first, Kevin, is it okay if we pay some bills real quick?
Go ahead.
All right. So here we go. If you have anything and everything related to video that you want documented, go see Steven Saldana at White Husky Films. The number is on the screen, or for everyone listening, you can go to www.whitehuskyfilms.com. Dream, create, record in that order. And let me tell you, when you choose White Husky, you'll be so glad you did. Commercials, podcasts, music videos, you name it, we got it. So get in contact with Steven right away. And also Jane's Physical Therapy. They are the premier home care physical therapists in the New Orleans and up to Baton Rouge, really in Louisiana area. They're hiring right now for two physical therapists, two physical therapy assistants, and now we have a new website. So go to janespt.com, send us a message, apply there, and I tell you what, when you if you've been thinking about home health, if you've been thinking about getting into home care, I'm telling you, James Physical Therapy is the place you want to go. JAYNESPT.com, or visit us on LinkedIn. Go to James Physical Therapy, or shoot me a message. Go find Bradley Clark. I'm the guy that looks like a real estate agent on my on my LinkedIn. And hey man, that photo, it's like, I can sell your house. Let me tell you something. I can get you a job over at Jane's Physical Therapy. Get in contact with me right away. Now,
you look like a real estate agent that rides a Harley. That's the only difference.
Man, I tell you what, a Harley. You know what I've been looking at? I've been looking at them for a couple of years. Are the Indians? Have you seen those? I think Polaris makes them now, but I've always okay. Do you remember the movie La Bamba?
Yes, Ricky Valens.
Do you remember the motorcycle Bob rode?
Vaguely, yeah.
It was an Indian, and it was a chief, by the way. That thing, what was it, Indian? Was it a chief or a scout? It might have been a scout, actually. I just love them. But if I'm going to get a Harley, and I've been looking at Harleys lately, I have got to get a Road Glide. I love that fixed fairing. If you got the other one, it shakes.
You know, seen the world's fastest Indian with Anthony Hopkins? Great movie. Great movie. This is our old movie conversation. My wife won't allow me to have motorcycles anymore. I drove a crotch rocket through the back window of a VW Bug in 1997, and that was it almost killed me. So that was the end of my motorcycle. Now I have same motorcycle power and torque, but in four wheels. So
what do you in four wheels?
I have a 65 Cobra replica that has a 347 in it with 400 to the rear wheels. So it's just fast enough that it tries to kill me, but can't quite succeed.
Excuse me.
Yeah, it weighs 2,000 pounds. It weighs 2,000 pounds with me in it. So I'll take it.
Well, guys, listen, I have
I completely derailed your intro.
No, not, I mean, look, incredible guest today. Incredible guest. If you've ever heard of the Maxed Out Man podcast, if you haven't, you've been under a rock. Let me tell you something. This guy is amazing. His podcast is incredible. It's all about making, giving, not just entrepreneurs, but men, in particular, giving them, ideas, inspiration, empowerment to be better men, be better business people, really be better people in and of themselves. And we could all use that. So without further ado, may I introduce my friend, Mr. Kevin Davis. Kevin, what is up, man?
Hey,
How
man.
are you?
Thanks for having me. Thanks for that intro. Yeah. Well, Max Out Man is like on the podcast. We try to inspire, educate, and edify people. A lot of times I joke and say it's those shows are for my own edification. I'm just really excited other people listen along. Edification is one of those big grammar words. right? We like to use that. We like to use that in the church a lot, and no one knows what the heck it means.
We're going to edify the people right now.
That's right. Yeah, but no, my goal is to try to help men to, as I say, be who they're made to be, right? Through all the things that we do, because there's so many men. You and I are similar age. I'm 51. So many men are just not, they're just not living up to what they could do. And some cases they know it, and just ignore it. In some cases they don't know it at all. So that's kind of our underlying goal for that.
I love that. And we were just talking a few minutes ago about we were talking about the differences between management and leaders. Mm-hmm. Sort of as you would say, the technician and I don't know how you would say it. Who cares? The whole idea that we know about being men because we're men.
We hope we do. I think right now we're a little confused. But
I mean, I'm just I'm trying to figure it out. It's been 40 years and I'm still trying to figure it out. But there's a lot of times when there's so many things that get blurred and confused, right? About, especially in this climate, in business, what does that look like? What does it look like to be a male leader? What does it look like to, and I think at the end of the day, it boils down to, things that have always been in things in our lexicon, things that we've over the years have been taught, either by experience or, when we were kids, what does that look like? I remember being I had the smallest hands when I was a little kid. So my grandfather would make me go into the engine and loosen up bolts.
I love it. That's awesome.
I mean, it was more times than one when the engine was on, you know what I'm saying? You gotta, so I learned how to, but that doesn't happen so much anymore. Let me ask you what, and you're an entrepreneur, I mean, Max Out Man isn't your only podcast. We'll talk about your other podcast in a minute, but how did hiring in this climate that we're in, good, bad, or indifferent, the experience that we had, they're not common anymore. No. For men in particular, for young men, for boys in particular. How is that? How are those experiences that aren't common anymore? How do you think it's affecting, young men in the workplace?
Man, I have 4 businesses and 9 brands across 3 or 4 different industries. So back in the day when I worked in the corporate world, this would have been late 90s, early 2000s, .com boom. We grew a company from about 12 to about 250. VC money was flowing like milk and honey at that time. So it was a little bit easier. It's like $8 million. Hey, no problem. I'll write you, do you take cash?
Exactly. I was about to say that. I have it right here.
Yeah,
I have it right here.
Floyd Mayweather here with my backpack.
Does anybody got the Louis bag? Anybody?
That's right.
Bring it on out. Kevin needs about $8 million.
Yeah, we need 8. I mean, that's going to be for the next week, and then we'll ask for 8 more next week. But
exactly,
make
this last until Friday.
Things have changed so much, right? Like I pretty much use independent contractors for a lot of my stuff, and I do have a young lady that works for me now, but I work with companies that have multiple employees, and it's interesting because the first day that I start with a new client, and we'll talk about that podcast later, but I started with a new client and I was on this first call introducing myself and all that. And I'm the 51-year-old guy talking to a couple of late 20 women in this. They were the creative team. I'm doing content creation and helping steer the business and all that. But I referred to them as girls. Okay. So I said, hey, you girls can do this. So I have a 26-year-old and a 24-year-old. My wife is in all female automotive space filled with tradeswomen of every kind.
Oh,
so like
goodness.
I'm around strong, badass women all the time. Yeah. It's all girls garage. It's girl gang garage. It's girl this, girl this, girl this. So to me, girls it's not even a term of endearment. It's just what we call each other. Sure. Like it's to me, the term girl is the opposite of dude, which I call women dude also, just because it's easier sometimes. But you should have seen their face when I said, and one of them, ironically, one of them was no longer with the company not long after that, because it bubbled up part of her personality that had been a problem in the company for a little bit. But it was like, to me, but that's a great example of exactly what you're talking about. I mean, because I'm not that old. I'm not disassociated from pop culture or what's going on. Like, I'm well versed on all of that stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm also not the most politically correct person, but I'm also not here to hurt people's feelings. Like, we live in a culture where I can't assume, just because I'm not trying to hurt someone, that you won't decide that I'm hurtful because of whatever ideology you're kind of dealing with. And I think that's a scary thing. I think it's really, like, I can't imagine running a company right now as a man, especially trying to kind of figure that out. I don't know if that answered your question, but I wanted to give an example of something that happened directly to me to that subject.
It does. It does in a lot of ways. The thing that I find, though, the experiences that we had growing up, I don't think, I mean, they were great. Maybe we didn't think they were great at the time. Maybe we thought, it's like, man, wouldn't it be great if we could pay somebody to do this? Never really realizing that my grandfather just loved working on cars, and he wanted to instill that in me.
Yeah.
And, I remember, growing up, it was like, my grandparents, man, my grandfather had an 8th grade education. My grandmother actually would have been in the ministry. Had it not been for my grandfather. It was so bad. But she was a great educated woman, went to seminary, did all that. And but they were simple people. There was little to no ambiguity with them. Things were a certain way, and that was just the way it was. But I was thinking about the other day, it's like, my goodness, what would they think living in today's climate? Like, what would, like, how would they navigate it? And so you answered it great. It's like, what for young men going into corporate America, it's funny. It's like, you have, trades for years have been sort of poo-pooed, and if you do that, then you're less than the guy that goes and you don't even wear a suit anymore, but you're less than the guy that I don't know, sits in it behind a desk, or whatever it is.
I mean, they literally call it higher education, indicating that trade school is a lower education. Yeah, I mean, it's awful. So, our experiences, I mean, how incumbent is it upon us, whether we're uncles or dads or whatever, to sort of help foster this working with your hands thing? Or, people used to think it was weird. That scene in Anchorman where they didn't even know what jogging was. Like, I think it's yogging, yogging. They run for recreation, and all of this. How incumbent is it upon us to, at any point in time, and not just for men and boys, but also for, like you said, your wife is in automotive, she knows her way around a carburetor. Mm-hmm. So how incumbent is it for us to foster this engineering mind, this
this thing that, you don't have to call somebody to change a tire. How important is that to instill that in the up and coming generation?
I mean, it's super important. It's funny because I can look out my window right here and I see the 3,400 square foot shop that my wife and I built together.
Man,
it's got 16-foot walls. I roofed it myself. We built it. We've literally built the entire thing. Yeah. And she does welding for hobby, but she's a cake decorator, does amazing cakes. We put electronics and all this stuff in it. But you know what SEMA is?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so SEMA, Michelle has had her Jeep that she and I built for off-road racing. She's had that vehicle in twice, and then she's been a part of 3 separate all-female builds that have also been in SEMA. So she's been in SEMA 5 times with vehicles that she's either built or been a part of the build. And she was a homemaker until both of our girls left home. So it's like homemaker turned all of these awesome things. But she grew up in a household where she really wasn't even allowed to do any of these things. Right. And so it was, and I grew up. And so we kind of, up until 2017 or so, 2015, she and I were like, hey, if she grabbed a hammer, if I saw her walk by my office with a hammer, I would be like, where are you going with that? What are you going to do? Like, what's your intention with this hammer? And now, like, if she walks by with a nail gun, I'm like, cool, have fun. I mean, she literally walked outside. She has her welding bag and whatever project she's doing right now going to her welding area out in the shop. Right. Like, wow. But all that to say, you have to be willing to let people understand what it takes to work with your hands, be able to show them things in a way that doesn't degrade them, and figure out a way that the way she learns. I'll give you an example. So we have bead locks on her Jeep. If you don't know what a bead lock is, it's basically a wheel that has an external locking ring, right? And there's like 30 individual bolts. And we have 5 big tires. So the way I taught her how to put those on is like, here's how you do the first ones. Now put the rest of them. You have to torque it 3 times and then do that times 5. Took her like an hour and a half to do those. But she learned how to do it and it was great, right? And so when I taught her how to frame a wall. And I said, okay, here's how you lay it out. These are the headers. This is the top plate, the bottom plate, all that kind of stuff. Here's your nail gun. Don't shoot yourself in the foot. Let me know if you have any problems. And I went to build a different wall. She built 75 feet of wall by herself and it was perfect.
Jeez. Well, and here's the thing. So you're talking about how, your wife wasn't allowed to learn this stuff. How, I wonder, just, men being men, boys being boys, people assume that they're learning this because they're boys.
Right.
And then to be young men, they're assuming that. And I don't think that's an assumption you can make anymore.
No, I think and Michelle has said this many times, my wife, and she's like, I'm so glad I married a man that can do these things. And she will say, not like so-and-so, who we have in her life, which literally, if he, he'll hire somebody to change his light bulbs and like, and my very judgmental side, my kids used to call me the judgmental bastard, but my very judgmental side, I'm like, dude, grow a sack and change a light bulb. Like that's such an offensive way to say that. But there are just certain things that I think all people, but in particular men, and this is kind of like patriarchy and all that BS that we talk about now, but it's just a matter of teaching. My premise is that we are not teaching young boys and young men actually how to be men. And I think that goes throughout our society. So that's kind of problem 1. Problem 2 is, and I've asked this of many of my guests, I think problem 2 is that we're actually making boys afraid to be men.
I agree.
And vice versa. I think we're actually making girls and women afraid to also be women because we've told them that in order to succeed, they have to be like a man, which there's a huge debate about that, however, I think what we've done is we've taken the masculine and the feminine out of each of the sexes. And so no one knows what the hell's going on. Like, is it okay for me to wear heels if I'm a woman and want to go into the office? Well, no, you got to wear those prison warden shoes in order that way men take you seriously. Yeah. But on the same token, I taught my girls how to shake hands like a person shakes hands. I don't know if you've had the experience of shaking. I don't like it with men or women, but in particular, a guy's hand, and it's like that wet fish kind of thing. There's something so just skin crawly about that, but
I can't stand it.
But someone should have taught that person how to shake hands properly. Look them in the eye, firm handshake, all that stuff, right? Stand up, all that stuff. So I think those are the two main problems we're seeing right now.
I agree with that. And I don't know. I think in the interest, I guess, of people trying to figure it out, they're going to different extremes. And I mean, there's also this thing too. Like a really good friend of mine, like his dad worked for an oil and gas company, and he didn't have to work on his own car, but he did, because who wants to pay somebody to do something you can do? Right. And so he vowed that he would make enough money that he would never have to touch a nut or a bolt in his life. But when he did that, he later on in life, he realized, man, wait a minute, I need to learn how to do this stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so then there's also that. I think, it's like there's been so many things where a lot of confusion has transpired, and it makes its way into the workplace. It makes its way into every facet of life, and we've been steadily trying to crack the code. And who knows, maybe the code's already been cracked and we just don't like what it says. But let's take a break right quick. When we come back, we're going to have more with the awesome and amazing Kevin Davis from Maxed Out Podcast, among others. We will be right back after this. Stay tuned.
Jane's Physical Therapy has immediate openings for full-time and part-time positions. For home healthcare physical therapists and physical therapy assistants, we are actively looking in the New Orleans and Lafayette areas. Call Bradley Clark at 713-364-8777. Join us at Jane's Physical Therapy, and let's help Louisiana get back to living life.
Hey everybody, and welcome back, man. We are having one heck of a conversation here with Kevin Davis, Maxed Out Man Podcast. Let me tell you, this has been so great, so informative, and wow. We're talking about, working with our hands, right? So for example, I don't know if you guys, here's my office, my wife has taken over my office, and God bless her. She puts things where, they find a new home once she's done working on it. But she makes, she's a teacher, and she's gotten into making these greeting cards. And so she uses all sorts of materials and stuff, but it's working with her hands. These are handmade. There's something about saying something is handmade, right? Something about saying someone made this with their hands, right? That isn't mutually exclusive to a man or a woman. I think we got to get out of this mindset of, look, people can do anything regardless of what they are. If they're a man, they're a woman. We've got to get out of this mindset. I think we have, to a great degree, where things are mutually exclusive to one or another.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it really, you're talking about the shaking hands thing. So it was funny. There was my neighbor. I just kind of met her really, and I shook her friend's hand, and then I shook her hand, and I shook it like this. She went to shake my hand regularly, and I shook it like this, assuming she's a girl, right? So I'm gonna shake, and yeah, I said, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Let me shake it like I'm, like you meant for it to be. I mean, it's just little things like that. I remember, I didn't learn how to tie a tie until I had to tie a tie. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
My dad died when I was a kid. And I wasn't taught that stuff. And knowing me, I wouldn't have admitted that I didn't know that stuff, but I didn't. And I think that, I don't know. We've gotten so into switching the roles that we don't realize that there are roles here, and it's okay if you have them. You know?
I mean, we're not allowed to define roles by natural, and people argue with me all day, but if you take a boy's guns away, what does he do? Like if he has a toy gun and you take that toy gun away, what's next in his hand? A stick that's in the shape that he's shooting people with the stick because you took his gun away. Right? Like, not that we all love guns. I mean, you're in Texas, I'm in Montana, we're heavily armed, I'm heavily armed. So
I'm a 2A advocate, my friend.
So we'll celebrate the Second Amendment right now. But the point is, and again, not all boys are geared that way. Not all girls want to play with dolls. My wife is super into Wonder Woman. Her entire office is filled with Wonder Woman memorabilia. Most of it from the early show, not from the latest show. But here's how this manifests in her life. She wants, and we have wiener dogs. So bear with me on this story, okay? We have wiener dogs. We've always had wiener dogs. So her main project that she wants to make next is a life-size version of Wonder Woman who's holding a wiener dog, and that's our mailbox, right? So it's going to be like, and my wife is 5'10". You put the heels on, she's 6'2".
You got to.
And so it's like, it'll take a while, but it's literally like welded washers. That's what makes the bustier, all of that, and everything's welded together. But that's like, to me, that represents both sides of that continuum intertwined in a perfect marriage. Of the two, right? Like, you have the traditional welding side, which the irony again is that she's going to TIG weld a lot of it. Women make far better TIG welders in a lot of cases than men because it's a two-handed welding. You have the rod, you have the feeder rod, and then you have the torch, and it's literally like sewing with metal. And so in a lot of cases, and I shouldn't say most, but in a lot of cases, women have better dual hand coordination than men do, right? Wow. With both hands, because you can be dexterous in one hand or the other, depending on what your dominant hand is. But women tend to be better at both, at having both dexterity in both hands. And so something that you would say, this is a traditional male industry, which it still is, and guys are dicks in it, just like in automotive to women. But women tend to be really, really good at these things. And so, we didn't come on here to talk about feminism, which I'm not a feminist. No. I'm kind of a feminist, but in a very untraditional way. But to your point,
I would say, yeah, I get that. Well, I mean, we're talking about how, these sort of, how these things can ruin someone's potential. I mean, from almost the cradle, by sort of, oh God, I don't want to be controversial when saying this, but when you're kind of killing the aspiration or potential of someone very early on because of whatever you're trying to push. I don't know what I want to say that. I don't know. I'm just saying that, you know, let them be who they are. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's okay.
Yeah. Well,
it's
the
okay
irony,
if it, you know.
I think the irony is that in our push currently to make things okay, we've made nothing okay.
Yeah, man.
Because we've sacrificed the new, we've sacrificed the old in order to have the new. And I think it's just a matter of realizing that both things can exist. Like, I don't really care what people do. You know, I tend to take a libertarian approach to that. You know, there are certain things in today's world that I disagree with, especially when it comes to kids and all that stuff. But like, if you're an adult, you want to do whatever you want to do, go do it. I don't care. But if I'm a conservative Christian man who lives in the country that owns guns, that should be okay too. And I think that that's the challenge. Right. And I think if you bring it back to the workplace, because we're talking about workplace stuff, right? I think that we lose the strengths of both men and women in the workplace because we don't allow them to be what they want to be, right? Like if you know, I think we should value women that are not only beautiful and want to do their hair and makeup before they come to the office, for example.
Right.
But they still have a ton to contribute in every way that their job requires. And a guy can like be a guy and still like to work on cars and, you know, talk about sports or whatever that particular guy likes.
Right.
And realize that his job, he's also really good at his job. Like, it doesn't matter. You know, guys should be able to talk about that stuff without being, you know, obviously sexual harassment and all that BS that guys, but guys, as long as they're not, this is the rule I always gave my girls, right? Don't be an a-hole. Like, that's the rule for life. Yeah, if you apply that rule to pretty much anything in your life, you'll do quite well.
Absolutely. I really love your podcast, man. I got to tell you, the Maxed Out Man podcast.
Yeah.
And we were talking about before we went on today, you know, we were talking about, like, you know, what it's about, you know, and what, you know, just trying to make, you know, men better, you know, better people, better men, you know. What do you see is the biggest struggle? Because you talk to men all the time, you know what I mean, in a male dominated industry, or this, you know, several.
Yeah.
Maxed Out Man, you know, the people you have on, I mean, it's unabashed. You know, you have everyone from, you know, Larry Broughton to Chris Fontes. Did I say his name right?
Yep.
I mean, dude, you know, it's like you see a lot of people, and you interact with a lot of men. From all of the people you've interviewed, not just your opinion, right? But how your opinion has formed, particularly from all the people you've interviewed. What is the main challenge men have today?
I think a lot of what we talk about is being a leader. And a lot of my guests will talk about being a leader and owning their own crap. And really, you know, my wife says, and she's right, by doing this podcast, I've become a much better listener. You know this as well, right? Like, you ask a question and then you listen, right? As men, we're not great listeners. So to be able to listen to different men like Larry Broughton, who's a, you know, hotelier, does very well, teaches leadership courses, and Chris Fontes, who actually deals with the cannabis industry, which is I don't smoke, I don't do any of that kind of stuff. You know, my strongest drug is caffeine. But like, you know, he deals with the Senate and Congress and all that stuff. So learning that, and then, you know, just men that are trying to help men be better connected to each other, especially this whole loneliness idea, and not opening up and really leaning into the deepest parts of ourself in order to connect with each other. And for us in Maxed Out Man, a lot of what we teach man, mission, and marriage. Those are our three pillars, right? So, you know, man is health and fitness and stress management. taking care of yourself, all of those kind of things. Marriage is obvious. How to be a loving leader, which is different, and a servant leader, which is different than, a lot of people think. And also applying that to your mission, which is legacy, purpose, business, being a servant leader in all of those areas and in your business. And I think those are the big pillars of the things that I think most men are facing now that are challenging to them, right?
Where's the biggest discrepancy do you see? Do you think?
Health and fitness is a big one. I think men, especially as you get to be our age, you get 40 plus, and because you can kind of get away with things. And I'm not talking about, bodybuilder. I mean, I work out a lot, but I'm not talking about bodybuilding, fitness model, 2% body fat, all of that stuff. I'm talking about just the overall, are you eating good food? Are you staying active? Are you trying to keep your weight in check? Are you getting enough sleep, managing your stress? Are your hormones, hormones optimized? That's a really big one, because that is that and your purpose. A lot of men are purposeless right now and hopeless. They don't know what they're doing or where they want to be. But if you don't have yourself kind of figured out, then it makes it a challenge to do really anything else at a high performance level, at a high level, right? Because you don't feel well, right? Like that's, if you don't feel well, you're not well rested, and you're not putting good food. If you're eating today's American diet, especially, which I do partake in regularly, I try to limit it as much as possible. But the crap that's in our food, and I'm not a buy organic or starve to death guy, but try to put good, healthy food in your system, and so you feel better and get enough sleep.
So, there's a lot of talk around, men, are people not really caring about us.
Yeah.
And they don't. I've seen that. I've experienced that. It's you face it, you get on with it. I mean, it's a terrible time to be a man.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, people don't care. And then he goes to the idea of, well, they probably never did. And then why didn't they? It's because we were too busy working, and right. And too busy, men's mental health has not been something that anybody's cared about as long as I've been alive.
Yeah.
And now it's kind of coming out to where it's like, you have to be mentally healthy in order to have, a healthy marriage, have healthy kids, have healthy lead in a healthy way, all of that. Do you think that's changing, that idea that nobody cares, and really we shouldn't either?
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. I think it's coaching has gotten more prominent with men. Coaching versus, and therapy and all that stuff is fine too, but coaching tends to be more of up men's alley, because it's more like, come alongside me while I guide you and lead you in these things, versus sit on the couch and tell me about your childhood kind of thing, which I had an absolute horrendous childhood, but I could care less about talking about it.
Do we have to relive that?
Yeah, let's just move on and give me something I need to focus on today. Right. But I think it's this balance between, as men, we want to be that strong provider, not necessarily stoic, but someone that is the as we say, I want to be the hero of my wife's story. Right.
Yeah.
But in my case, one of the ways that can manifest is I want to be the man that is not only the one that steps in front of the guy that's trying to mug us to protect her, but I also want to be the guy that can massage her feet and listen to her talk about, how she's dealing with self-esteem issues, and walk through those kind of aspects, because I'm in touch in enough with my own emotions that I can then, do that. I want to be the guy that says, hey, Bradley, you're one of my great friends, and man, I love you. Like, this is, that needs to be okay. I did an episode that literally the title of the episode was, I love you, man. And trying to take that like that's something super simple. Like I really try to tell the people that the men in my life, especially that I do indeed love, hey man, I love you.
Yeah.
And I have a friend of mine that makes it really uncomfortable. And I always say he's older than me.
There's always the one.
Yeah.
There's always the one.
But what I do is I will say, hey man, I love you, but not in a weird way. So
right.
that helps him to kind of diffuse it. But I think that all of that goes like being self-aware. I think men aren't giving themselves permission to be self-aware, which sounds really strange, but like we do have feelings and we do want to do what's best for our family and our coworkers and our community and our wives and all of those things.
Yeah.
But we have to give our permission to kind of embrace that side of things too.
Well, yeah. And also, how do I say this? Not have anything be questioned that we wouldn't want questioned. You know what I'm saying? Like this idea that being so, masculinity means being so out of touch in that area, kind of goes to what, absolutely goes to what you're saying. It's like there's going to be you're always going to have that one friend that you're going to have to say, not in a weird way too.
Right.
You know what I mean? You're always going to have that one guy. So, God, I just love what you're doing, man. I love everything about it. You're, when it comes to entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Right. Now you're the owner of 9 brands. I mean, you're a business person,
serial entrepreneur, as they call
serial entrepreneur.
Whether I'm successful is a whole nother thing, but
that's a whole other topic. We'll assume you are.
I'll put that hat on right now for sure.
I will tell you right now, this man is, and you need to be listening to him. The what I wanted to ask you is that, along the lines of what we're talking about, there's this idea that in order to be a successful entrepreneur, you have to be one or the other, right? You have to be, this idea of like what it means to be a man, period.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the other one where, what does it mean to be a man in today's society? You see, you know what I mean?
Yep.
You know the difference,
Yep.
And so what does that mean for entrepreneurs when, I think as men, we're all confused. It's like, I don't know anybody that would raise their hand and say, gosh, I wish I were a dude. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like today, it's just it's the worst time. And not to say it will get better, but it just is. I was talking to my wife about this, and she was like, yeah, it's a really hard time to be a dude. I was like, I know, it sucks. It never has been easy, though. We're the ones that, we're called upon to protect, whether it's our home or our country. I love the fact now that at least today there's an idea that, we're all in this. You know what I'm saying? So I love that. But what is it like for entrepreneurs that they're kind of wrapped up in the whole idea, because it's easy to do, of what being a man is, what you should be, how you should be. What's it like for entrepreneurs to navigate this societal landmine? You know what I mean? And be successful.
Yeah, it's funny because to your earlier point, I have a couple of signs behind my head. One of them says masculinity is not toxic. Some men just suck. So that's the
1,000%. We can talk about that for 2 hours.
So I'll read 3 of them. The other one says failure is always an option. Do it anyway.
That's right.
And the third one is to your last point, which is success redefined. Amen. And so what I'm hoping men begin to do is redefine what success looks like. for them, and for their family and community and the world at large, and for their for their marriage especially, but for themselves. Being an entrepreneur, you need.
Sorry, I'm making sure my earbud just died.
Uh-oh.
This is. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can still hear you. Can you? As long as you can hear me. I
can still hear you. This is a great thing. Sorry.
No,
sorry about that. Live podcasting, sort of.
Yeah. Well, so the third one is success. The third sign I have on the wall is success redefined. And this is one of the big things that I'm trying to teach with Maxed Out Man. And I'm just trying to help, I've talked about this for a long time, but how we define success for ourselves, for our family, for our marriage, for our business, for our community is super important, especially as men, because our definitions are often skewed. One of the things I love to say is if you make money your primary object of success, or your measure and your metric of success, you'll be a failure your whole life, because you'll literally never make enough. Right? Like if that's your primary goal, you're never going to, because there's always going to be more. I need that next deal. I need this. But if success, and the big thing that I talk about is making sure that I tell myself that it's just success means building a life using my business, not using my business that takes away from my life, right? Like that's, or not using my life to build my business. Let me back up and say that again. And I want to define success in a way that it means I use my money and my business to build my life. And that's everything that encompasses, versus sacrificing my life in order to build my business and my wealth. Right. So that's something super important.
I love that. I love that. I fell into that trap. I don't know how many times where, I had a boss one time. She would tell me, take care of yourself. Make sure you're okay. Oh, I'm fine. No worries. I'm good. And then I wouldn't be.
Mm-hmm.
And she would say, company's going to be here. Everything's going to be here. But if you're not here, that's a problem. Right. And it didn't hit me until I wasn't there. Right. And so, whatever that means to anyone else, it's like, it's so important, and being able to, we're this week is Valentine's week.
Mm-hmm.
So may as well, talk about men being okay with themselves. And if you're okay with yourselves, you're going to be okay with. Now, if you love yourself and realize that you're God's creation, realize that, he didn't make mistakes. And we certainly aren't. I know so many men just feel like for whatever reason or another, they were a mistake. You're not a mistake. You're here for a reason,
mm-hmm.
And if you love yourself, you're better able. If you love yourself, you love what you know.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? So if you know yourself and you know where you came from, chances are you're going to be able to love other people. Yeah. If you love yourself, you're going to be able to love others and want the best for them. And I think a lot of times men, we do not love ourselves for whatever reason there is, for whatever, why is exclusive to that man. So if we're not proud of ourselves, we're not going to be, if like what you, like to your point, if all you're doing it for is money, it'll never be enough, whether you have all of the money or none of it. When I did things for money, it tended to run from me like the Roadrunner.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm literally, like Wile E. Coyote trying to trap the money, and it never happened. It always got away. But whenever we did something for other people and was of service, and realized how fortunate I am to be able to be that person to help, and to be a servant leader. And what does that mean? All of that. I love that. And your show really, you bring people on that exemplify that and that have made that their mission in life. And I love that. I want to get a little personal now, if that's okay.
Do it.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
I'll adjust my chair and my shirt, make sure I'm ready. Okay.
We're good. I got my hat on. You see my 20,
there you go.
2017. That was a great. I loved that World Series because we needed it. That was after Harvey and Owen.
Well, I'll give you an example of not being a man, right? Like I don't do sports. I could we watched the Super Bowl last night, but it would be almost impossible for me to care less about the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And so I'm just not a sports guy. I'm not really a hunter, and so I don't fit. But I'm a car guy.
You're a car guy all day long.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I live in a place where has no car culture versus I grew up in Oklahoma where it had tons of car culture. So anyway,
wow, I know.
When you reference a 2017 World Series game, I know what you're talking about, but I'm not gonna whatever.
Well, I don't care how many garbage cans they banged. I don't care. If you look in baseball, if you ain't cheating, you ain't playing. So get over that. Everybody, they're the haters. Astros are great. So, but real quick, tell me about your biggest triumph.
Marrying my wife and then fixing it when I screwed it up.
Oh man.
Because to your point, to your point, I missed the first 6 months of my daughter's life because I was traveling and spending time at the office because I was too afraid to be a father, but I was really, really good at being a corporate guy. And so I leaned into that. It's a great story, actually. I'll shorten it for you. My wife basically called me one day. I was at the office. This was in Connecticut. And she's like, dude, I got my bags packed. Would you like to come home and continue to be married or not? So I came home, we talked about it. At this time I was traveling 6 days a week to the point where this is back when they had yellow pages. I would have to look at the hotel yellow pages to figure out what town I was in. I was doing corporate training and all that. Left for work at 4 a.m, came home at 8 p.m, all this stuff. And so she was like, this has to change. And so I went to my boss, who was the CEO, and I said, hey, I fully expected to get fired at this point, by the way. But I went in and said, I can't travel anymore. I need to work 8 to 5-ish. And I need to work from home a couple days a week so I can be there with my young family. And dude, I'm just waiting for, well, thank you very much. You've been a great asset. We wish you the best. I'll write you a letter of recommendation. And it was like, that's really crazy that you would come in and say this, because we've been trying to figure out who we should hire for this new position. And your name has been on the short list. I was like, really? That's awesome. This is a total God thing in my mind. But not only did he give me the job, no travel. I got twice as many employees. I worked from home 2 days a week, and I worked normal hours. And oh, by the way, I got a 50% increase in my pay.
If that's not a God thing, I don't know what.
But it was like it was I had to make a commitment to say I'm willing to take whatever repercussions I have to take and sacrifice whatever I have to sacrifice in order to be the kind of man, father, and husband I need to be. So I would say that was probably my greatest triumph. And I've spent the last 27 years of my 28-year marriage continuing to try to lean into that commitment.
Brother, we need to do another show about that. In fact, that's what this show should have been about. For Entrepreneurial Love Valentine's Day week.
There you go.
Wow. That's amazing. As you're saying that, I'm thinking back in my life going, I should have done that. Why didn't I do that? And it was because of the fear that you're not going to have it. And you faced it, went head on and said, my marriage, my wife, and my family are more important than this job. I'll get another job, but I'm not going to get another wife.
Yeah.
Lord have mercy. Help me. Oh, that's good. Oh, that's good. That needs to be a clip.
And thankfully, my wife is the kind of woman that she was like, all right, well, let's do the work.
We'll do what we need to do.
We've been to counseling probably 6 or 7 times, and we continue to do it every few years as we need tune-ups. Like you change the oil in your car, we change the oil in our marriage and go to counseling, or do week-long excursions, or we've done on-site counseling weeks and stuff like that. So, but I mean, we've been married 30 years. It literally gets better every year.
I love that, man. I love that. Wow. Oh my goodness.
So happy Valentine's Day, Bradley.
Thank you.
I love you, man.
I love you too, bro. I really do, man. That's amazing, because it's just for everybody hearing this, that should make you think. Right there, that should make you think about where am I at in my life? Where am I at in my relationship? And you know what? It's funny. I was just talking to my wife last night about this, and we were talking like, it's funny. The more we're married, the more we love each other, and there's less and less pretense about anything. Not that there is any, but it's just you're doing life with this person, and it's amazing, and there's nothing like it. It's just, it's okay. Oh man, that's so good. That is so good. All right. Biggest failure.
It's probably the same story. Honestly,
that's what I was going to say. It's the same story.
I just get to tell one story, and it's the greatest and the worst point of my entire life. I allowed fear to drive my decision making. And I've done that. I've done that in other times in my life. I really now try to take what I call the entrepreneurial approach to life, right? Mm-hmm. Like, we're going to mitigate risk. We're going to take risk. If we fail, we're going to fix it and try something else. We did this with my girls when they were in school. They were in public school till 5th and 6th grade. We homeschooled them the rest of the time. They graduated at 17, and they're both amazing. Very, great work ethic, great kids. And we do it with our marriage, right? Like, it's like, how do we approach all of this stuff? Business is the same way.
I love that. It's like, if we fail, we're going to fix it. I am so tired of hearing, and it's an old entrepreneurial adage, right? Fail fast, right? If you're, failure is a part of success and all this, and it's fail this. I think for the last 5 to 10 years, it's been being okay with failure. And I get it. I understand where people were trying to go with it, but I think it's morphed into something it wasn't intended to be, where it's like, no, we're saying don't hate yourself because you failed. It's okay to fail. It's not okay to live and waller, as we used to say. You lived in Texas before, you know what a wallering is.
Yeah.
So it's not okay to waller in that failure. Get your ASS back up and get back in the ring. I think
I always say turn the suck knob down and get back to work.
Come on, man. It's like
you're a musician, so you know what the suck knob is, right?
Know exactly what the suck knob is. Turn it down, get back. It's like I think here's the other thing that a lot of men struggle with. I've had my bouts with it. Is depression, right? And again, nobody cares about a man's mental health unless that man decides to do something really heinous.
Yep.
And then it's the excuse. You see what I'm saying? Or the reason, still an excuse. It's like, I think we have to just start to embrace that we're people. We are flawed people. There was only one perfect person that ever walked this planet. And I just thank him every day that he took it upon himself to even care about a person like me or you or any of us, that he would take that upon himself. It's just at a point now where we're using failure as this, I don't know, as being okay with it, not learning from it, but being okay with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that's what we need to do. And I don't think that's where we need to be. I think we need to, if we're going to fail as an entrepreneur or anything else, fail fast, but at the same time, learn from the failure. Because, the whole point of it is it's okay that you failed. What did you learn from it?
Yeah.
Makes sense?
Failure is supposed to be the turn in the road, not the destination.
Not the destination. And I think it's become the destination. How much of, because you're talking to men all the time, one of your podcasts is about, and I want to talk about your other ones too, but one of your podcasts is maxed out man. How much is depression really hurting men today?
I mean, it's devastating, in so many ways. I've got a daughter-in-law who is in Syria right now. She's deployed and she's in the Army. And I've had a couple of guests. One of my guests runs this company called the Hero Company. They donate a portion of their sales in order to align PTSD vets with service dogs. They have special dogs. So it's a great Hero Company.
We got to put that in the description. Hero Company. I love that.
So he does a great, does a lot of stuff with that, but it's just, I do push-ups. And so the push-up challenge was the 22 push-ups a day because 22 veterans. The scary thing, it's actually more like 45. 45 of our veterans commit suicide every day. And that doesn't include, the other men that are also doing it.
Now, see, in that regard, we are failing our vets. And you know what? Much. I think it's worse than it was in the 60s. I think it's worse because there's a veil of courtesy now.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's a veil of courtesy, but when you come back to people that are telling you that you served for nothing, it's just, it's not right. It's not right. Every single one of our servicemen and women deserve our utmost respect and should never be ever made to feel like they're the best of us.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
We
have a joke in our family. We have a joke in our family with Lauren is her name, but like we tell her thank you for your service all the time because she hates it when people say that to her.
I love it.
And so we say it it becomes a running joke for everybody in our family, even though most of us, she's the only one that has served. But
if she Thanksgiving and she's helping put food on people's plates, thank you for your service.
Yeah, we do that 100%.
I love it.
Definitely.
But we're talking about depression and how much, with what's going on now, men are depressed because they're men. How are we going to get around that? How are we going to fix that? How are we going to face it for what it is and be there for each other?
It's making that community. It's having that community, making sure you're interacting with people. I don't have a lot of close friends that are local to me. It's just, I'm kind of the anti-Montana dude, right? So that's difficult, but I have friends all over the world, and this is how I connect.
Yeah.
With this. And it's crazy because you can, right? There's tons and tons of men's resources and men's groups that you can be a part of, whether it's on Facebook or they actually still have forums, believe it or not. But there's all sorts of ways to have that connection, because if you're waiting around for society to get better, you should buckle up, because it's going to get way worse. Yeah. And I don't know how long it's going to take for the insanity to get so insane that people are like, this is kind of crazy. We should stop doing this, because it's just, I would say it's a weird time to be a man, because it's just all over the map. You don't even know, that, like, what did some comedians like? It's chaos. Dogs and cats are living together. It's, it's just,
that's Ghostbusters. That's right.
Right.
Dogs and cats living together. It's insanity.
But when that was the worst thing that could be going on in society, having a dog and a cat live together, then, that was a simpler time, right?
Who would have thought we'd be looking back at 1984 and going, boy, those were some simple times.
Well, to your point, because we now embrace mental illness as normal, right? We no longer treat it as mental illness. Like, so when you normalize actual mental illness, and it's across the board in a lot of different areas, not one in particular that would be highly charged. That is one. But when you normalize that, it makes it so that people with actual problems don't even know how to approach the fact that they have actual problems.
Wow.
And I think men have been that way. I mean, if I open my little cabinet here, I can show you, this is my Wellbutrin to deal with my seasonal affective disorder, because we have 9 months of winter where I live. And days like this when it's completely cloudy.
That used to be help you quit smoking.
Yeah, well, Butrin's good. It's an SSRI, which is what they use because what an SSRI is. It's serotonin uptake inhibitor.
Okay.
So it actually helps. It actually helps with the serotonin, dopamine, epinephrine balance in your brain. So that's why it works for depression. But
wow,
all that to say, I deal with seasonal affective disorder, which is basically depression that lasts because I can't go out and be in the sun. I'm solar powered. I joke with my wife. I love being out in the sun. But I also just, a lot of men are just they don't have a purpose, or they're dealing with stuff in their marriage they don't know how to fix. They're tired and don't sleep well. They work too hard. All those things. Or they eat like crap. I mean, and they have constant inflammation in their system, which also causes depression type symptoms. And like, it's all of those factors. And that's the man section of our 3-pillar approach thing, so trying to get all that under control. But mental health and stress management and all those are very, very big.
Kevin, I have gotten so much out of this conversation, and I don't want to end it. And I don't think we will be ending it. Please, you have to come back on. You have got to come back on. But before we go, man, tell us a little bit about your other podcast too, because I've only listened to Maxed Out Man. It's fantastic. I haven't listened to the other ones, to be honest, but I will. Tell us about those.
Well, that other podcast is called Cruise Control. I work for a company called Detailers Roadmap, or just Roadmap, because we're involved in, basically it's a web development company. Okay. They hired me as a consultant. I do business consulting. My title, which is completely made up, is Director of Revenue Development and Strategic Partnerships.
Those are the best titles, though.
Right?
I mean, those are the best.
Every time they say it out loud, I'm like, really? That's just made up. But what I do is I help them
be the director of masterful everything.
Yeah. Masterful excellence, whatever, right? But I help them future-proof the company and deal with processes and how to communicate with customers and, all of these things that I've learned over 30 years of my career. But part of the thing that we do is we do podcasts, and some of the episodes, a lot of the episodes tend to be detailing industry specific. However, it's really for any small business. It's all these things that we teach about in the detailing space approaches it really for any small business, is very, very helpful. So we did a series on troubleshooting your business. We're in round 2 now that we're recording, but it's basically saying, hey, let's look at all your costs and what your labor looks like and how do we fix those? And we beat the living crap out of these young business owners on every avenue so that we can help them to change their business, right? And so those are great episodes to listen in on. So it's called Cruise Control. You can find it on all the major, just like with Maxed Out Man, you can find it everywhere.
Beautiful, beautiful. I have gotten so much out of this, being a man myself.
As far as you know.
As far as I know. I mean, I'm pretty positive.
That beard is a dead giveaway, I'll tell you right now.
I mean, you'd be surprised. But, I'm so thrilled, and I'm honored that you'd come on Work Your Career Wednesday and share this little talked about perspective that I think, loving the skin you're in is so important. And for men to love themselves and be okay. It's okay to love your fellow man, you know, and just to be that guy that wants to help and really fulfilling the commission. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on. Serve yourself, serve your wife, serve your family, serve your job, serve your community, right? Those are the 5 things that we could do better today.
I love it. With that, guys, I got to tell you, I hope you've gotten as much out of this conversation as I have. It's been absolutely fantastic. And so I don't know what else to say other than I got to tell you, from all of us, from Work Your Career Wednesday, White Husky Films, Jane's Physical Therapy, and I will say Maxed Out Man podcast, that I got to tell you, we love you and God bless you. Let his face shine upon you and give you great peace. Be excellent to yourself and each other, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye. Hey, everybody. Wanted to come on and tell you a story. It's a little personal. I've been in a couple accidents that were pretty severe. Rear-ended. At one, I was on the freeway, did a 360. It injured me pretty badly in 3 parts of my back, my hips, and my left leg. On those accidents, on the first one, I didn't get any physical therapy. On the second one, I did. But there's injuries still there. And then when I was a traveling working musician, my shows were pretty lively, and I would re-injure myself, so I would lay on ice when, after a show before I could meet anybody. That said, the physical therapy really helped me. It helped me get back to performing. It helped me walk again. In late 2020, I injured my back again and could hardly walk. Getting from my house to the car was a problem. I can't imagine what it would be like if I was homebound, okay? Like, let's say I had a surgery and I couldn't get to the physical therapist. It would be a severe problem. Let me tell you something. Jane's Physical Therapy is almost enough for me to move to New Orleans, okay? They are specialists in in-home healthcare, covering New Orleans, North Shore, and they're amazing. Casey James, the managing director of Jane's Physical Therapy, he's incredible. Second to none. We've gotten a chance to meet him and to really talk with him, fellowship with him. He is awesome, and his physical therapists are specialists. They are awesome, incredibly amazing. Look, there's a process on how you would work with him, but I'm telling you, go onto LinkedIn, okay? Here's the deal. They're looking for 2 physical therapists, 2 more physical therapists in the New Orleans area. Go onto LinkedIn, okay? Connect with him there. You can even go to his LinkedIn page on LinkedIn. Casey James, CASEYJAYNES. Connect with him there. Send him your resume. The website will be up soon, so you'll be able to send resumes there. Or you can even send them to me. Go onto my LinkedIn page and shoot me a message. And, we'll even set up a conversation. But I'm telling you, it's an amazing opportunity. The money's great. And working with Casey is really incredible. Okay. He's got a really great network, and a wonderful staff of physical therapists that, contract really all over. But for these positions, we're looking in New Orleans and in the North Shore area. I'm still familiarizing myself with Louisiana, but I tell you, you want to go to Jane's Physical Therapy, JAYNES. As soon as the website's up, we'll let you know. Go onto LinkedIn. In the search tab, type in JAYNES Physical Therapy and connect with him. Follow his page. You will be so glad you did. All right. So I hope it's not too long, but let's get on with the show.
White Husky Films. Dream, create, record. We create ads and promos for your business. We can promote your video on television, Facebook, YouTube, Hulu, and more. We do a full Google SEO analysis for you with any plan. Call us today at 305-744-1444 or visit our website at whitehuskyfilms.com. White Husky Films. You'll be glad you did.
Oh, hi. I didn't see you there. Hey, if you like Work Your Career Wednesday and want to be notified every single time we have a new episode, like, share, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell. Smash it. Get a hammer and get it. And
Yeah, that's fine.
Too much?
No, that's fine.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I love it. People want.
Do you hear Steven in the background? I was just making sure I'm going to be okay. But get that notification going. And hey, we will be letting you know, or I guess YouTube will be letting you know, when the next Work Your Career Wednesday is on. So make sure you like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Man, ding it, ring it, sling it, and bo-bang it. All right? And we will see you soon. Work Your Career Wednesday. Oh, great. I'm glad you stopped by. Be sure to get that subscription bell, and I'll see you there.